Welcome, everyone. I am Emily Becker. I'm here with the Squash Mavens. And we are super excited to hear them spill all the secrets about how to grow winter squash. And this episode is being brought to you by Tribes Extension and Rural Cap. Rural Cap's mission is to improve the lives of low-income Alaskans, and Tribes Extension is here to be the cooperative extension for tribes working on food sovereignty and security across Alaska.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Greetings, prospective squash mages and wizards.
Wow, it's so great to see people whose names I recognize. There's several of you there, and it's great to see people from different parts of the state. Hopefully, we can share our information and get better at this. Yeah, so this talk is about growing winter squash in Anchorage, which often gets lots of rain, and we have lots of obstacles to potentially growing squash, but we've been doing it now for
This will be our fifth year.
Okay. Our update this year, I anyway had major problems with storage of my 2024 crop. I had a lot of rotting, so it's kind of back to the drawing board for me on storage. So that will be an item of discussion.
Yeah, and I didn't have as much trouble with storage as long as you watch the squash, and when you start to see a brown spot, or you have to press on them to see if there's a soft spot, and just take it out and eat it then. And I just keep mine in my crawl space on a shelf near an outdoor air inlet.
Okay, so we'll proceed, but keep that in mind that we're having differences here. All right, so why are we so enthusiastic about squash?
Well, we started off because we had a friend, Val, who told us one time in I think it was a permaculture meeting, that she was growing a winter squash called Speckled Hound and having great success with it. And so we got intrigued and we started to research, and we just thought, hey, let's try it. So we were just curious about what we could create. And as I said, we were just excited about the challenge.
And this list on the right will include our different topics in this presentation: selection, seedlings, bed preparation, transplanting, feeding and watering, harvest and curing, and storage. Selection. So I got, I am the researcher. I love process. I could go down rabbit holes. Liz is the person who says, get it done.
Let's get the job done.
So when we started researching, I began to look at just, what was available. And what I found was that the Cucurbita maximas are generally regarded as more cold hardy than the Moschata or Peppo variants. So I've been looking at Maxima squash that, and it will tell you this in the seed catalogs. It will tell you what family it's in. Maxima squash with no longer than 100-day growing period. We're lucky if we get 100 days, I think. And with a size and yield, we're aiming for 4 to 5 pounds and 3 to 5 squash per plant, although there are a couple of exceptions, and we'll tell you about them. We're trying to figure out what their growth habits are. Are they trailing or bush? Because that's important for growing space consideration. We're interested in storage potential. And we trial each type for 2 years, just because you never know. The first year might be a bust, and the second year it might grow really well. And if it hasn't done well in 2 years, we go on to the next. So first we'll list some of the selections that we're currently working with.
Yeah, these are delicious. These are curries that come, I guess, a derivative of Japanese squash, and they are an 85-day. We get about, I think we get, or like 5 fruits per plant, 4 to 5. And they are the smaller size, they're about this big, and they are completely delicious. One to two. Oh, they're better. This particular type, Orange Summer, we found to be better than a regular red curry. And we also have, what is it we got this year? We
Well,
got,
that's the next one.
okay,
But we did find, and this needs to be added, we did find that this variety spoils first. So
Yeah.
you got to eat this one early.
yeah, this one has a very thin skin, and the meat is only about, well, probably an inch thick at best, but it is so delicious. It is really incredible flavor.
Eastern Rise was another one we trialed, and this is another hybrid curry type. It's popular in China. 95 days, cool conditions, 2 to 4 fruits per plant, 3 to 5 pounds each, a vining habit. This says full flavor after December. Quite honestly, all of our thin-skinned squashes did not last more than a couple of months. So I will be trying these again this year to try again.
And also because they have an incredible flavor. And some of mine went early, but that just means you've got to watch them in storage. And if you see a black spot or a soft spot, take it out and eat it. Cut that spot out and eat the rest. And again, once again, these have an incredible flavor and texture.
Hidatsa is another one that does well. It's a Hubbard type squash, open pollinated from the North Dakota Fort Berthold Reservation, North Dakota. It's supposed to be tolerant of stress and drought. 100-day maturity. 2 to 3 fruits per plant, 5 to 10 pounds. They're definitely a little bigger, but we also liked that. It had a nice thick flesh and good flavor.
Yeah, these are about this big. I mean, yeah,
They're bigger.
they're bigger. They're like 8 to 10 inches across, maybe 9 to 10 inches across.
And we're going to be growing this one again as well.
This is a baby blue Hubbard. We did not have as great success with this, but this is open pollinated, a scaled down Hubbard developed in the 1950s at the University of New Hampshire. It's 90 to 100 days, 5 to 7 pound fruits, vining habit. Did not perform well this season. I don't think we're trying that.
We're
again.
not
No.
going to try it because we have others that are have been more successful, and we'll detail our reasons why in a subsequent presentation. But if you try this and it does well, let us all know.
Yeah. This is the speckled hound, which is a really good size squash. This is the one that Val originally told us about. They got us inspired, and it is an F1 hybrid. Origin is unconfirmed, 100 days, 4 to 7 fruits per plant, 3 to 6 pounds per fruit, semi-bush growth habit.
This was, if I can interrupt,
Yeah,
this
please
was
do.
the reason that we were really intrigued by this once we started keeping records of how many fruits we got. It tends to grow in a more compact growth habit, and it's very productive. So I would say this is an excellent choice.
It's a really good keeper. For me, it's been a
Yeah,
great
yeah,
keeper.
it's been a good keeper.
Yeah, and it has a harder shell, so when you cook it, like say you cut it in half and turn it face down on a baking sheet and bake it, when you scoop it out, it's just everything scoops out right to the hard shell, which is, extremely thin. And it is a dense flesh with a dry flesh too, and it's sweet. And we tend to like the more dense, drier fleshes a little bit more because we did grow one called a long pie that was very prolific. It's a long, slender squash, almost like a zucchini, but gets really big and is super productive. We just didn't really like the wet flesh or the flavor so much.
Ah, this one is an exception to the size. This is from the Lower Salmon River, Idaho area, 95 days. It doesn't produce very many fruits, but the fruits it produces are big. We had we had only one,
Like
yeah. We had one plant this last year, 3 fruits, and they ranged from 18 to 24 pounds. And generally they will store for up to 1 year. They have a good hard rind, thick, dry flesh, good flavor. This is this is the size of 2 heads.
Yeah, at least. I just ate my last one of these a couple days ago. I just cooked it, and it had just a couple little, like less than an inch around black spots it was developing. It was amazing. And what is this, like March, early March? So it's a great keeper.
Whereas mine rotted like in December. So yeah.
And Les is keeping hers under different conditions, and it could also be how we cured each squash, like if they both got the same treatment exactly.
Anyway, yeah.
Sibley from Pikes Peak. This is a really great storing squash. It's open pollinated, 1830s Missouri River watershed, and 1887 introduced commercially by Hiram Sibley in New York. It's 100 days. It produces about 1 to 4 fruits per plant and 6 to 8 pounds per fruit. It has a sprawling habit. It's green when we harvest it, but it turns yellow-orange as it stores. And I just ate one of these the other day because it was getting soft at the tip, and I have another one. And they basically say in the catalog, don't even eat it till January because that's when it's fully ripened. And it has a rich, moist, it's flavorful and sweet.
And I will say that I still have my Sibleys, so that's
Yay.
one that seems good for storage. Ah, okay. Those were the varieties we tried last year. We're trying many of the same and adding a couple this year.
What are we adding? We're adding Sweet Mama, and what's the other one?
I can't remember.
It's some kind of a baby something.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We're trying
Yeah.
a couple of more and we're eliminating the little blue Hubbard. Okay, so what we start with is a non-sterile seedling mix. I'm guessing that many of you are like hardcore gardeners. I know Diana Sparacino is, and probably others, and you probably have seedling mixes, but this is just what we've been doing. And Liz and I start mid to late April. We could be earlier this year mixing up our soils. We have a big container. We just want it to be light, fluffy, moist, good drainage, nutritious. So basically you want to use what you've got around. Pro Mix is expensive, but I still think it's a really good buy for the amount that you get. It seems to have really good drainage. We mix it,
light.
it's light.
Yeah.
We mix it with coconut coir, and I think that stretches it further, and a little bit of perlite. And
Sometimes it doesn't come with perlite.
yeah, Pro Mix has a little perlite in it, but also secret ingredient. I don't know how many of you keep earthworms, but we add in earthworm castings and some local soil, maybe some vermiculite. Really use what you've got. Compost, squash, like something rich.
Yeah, they're heavy feeders.
For amendments, we throw in a couple of handfuls of dried kelp, some eggshells, some lime, some azomite, and for seedlings, we use a 3-3-3 organic fertilizer.
That's a dry fertilizer. So we just stir all this up, stir it, stir it, stir it. until Leslie determines that it's just the right, feel and texture for success.
It's a tactile experience.
Yeah, and what was I gonna say about yeah, anyway, we get it together, we start making it in mid-April, just so we break our tasks down into several, time periods rather than try to do it all at once. And yeah, go ahead. That's
Oh, there's our container. Yeah. It's a good thing to do, get outside on these sunny days and start playing in the dirt. Seedlings. So we plant our seedlings May 1st, and this is a date that has been determined by, I don't know, other people, but if any of you know Don Woods, he's adamant, May 1st. But anyway,
But one of the reasons we do that is then by the time we're able to plant at the end of May, usually the roots have grown out to the edges of the plant, and we know that that plant is ready to be transplanted into the ground because we don't want to make successive transplantings.
the first year we did this, we started too early and we had to transplant, and that was ridiculous.
Yeah, we had to transplant before we transplanted into the soil for the summer.
So we use those little 4x4 square pots. They're a little bit bigger. They're a little bit larger and they're kind of shallow. 1 seed per pot. You want your soil mix to be moist but not soggy. Avoid rotting seeds. Last year I had a whole flat that was too wet, and like 25% of our seedlings rotted. So plant more than you need, assume something is going to mess up, and label them, because label each pot. We've made the mistake sometimes of just labeling it flat by flat, but then we find that, you end up moving all your little seedling pots around for one reason or another because they sprout at different times. And anyway,
And if you plant more than you need, you can always give some away to somebody else.
we use a seedling mat to speed the germination, but just provide a little bit of heat underneath. But with germination, once those seeds pop, remove the seedling, remove heat, and use grow lights. We feed these little guys a weak broth of compost tea or fish emulsion. And as Liz said, we want those roots to fill the pot in 1 month, but not be root bound. Squash plants do not like disturbances, so we don't want to transplant them any more than we have to.
That's what we want, that look. When we take the plant out of the pod and we're going to transplant it into the garden, we want the roots to look like this. This is just perfectly ready to be transplanted and not root bound.
Bed preparation. During May, while the seedlings are growing, you want to prepare your beds. And the ideal location, of course, is full sun with space for vines and the availability of water. Both of us have have yards that have partial shade throughout the day. And so we have opted to use different community garden plots, I think, in all years. And we build a fresh bed every year. I guess you would call it a casual lasagna type of a garden.
Or we heavily amend a bed that we've used before. That's what we did last year.
Yeah. So this year we'll be building it up again I don't think we need to use the cardboard, but we'll be adding leaves and manure and spent grain. And one of the tricks with the bed preparation is to water it well, because it's very easy early in the spring for your ingredients to be dry. And what you want is to set the stage for a nice moist bed. The beds will compost and warm up, which is also great for the seedlings.
Yeah, and we do not actually build in layers. We just kind of throw everything in and kind of mix it up. And then we put a heavy mulch of leaves on top,
Heavy mulch.
like about, I don't know, we put like 6 inches of leaves on top at least, because it's going to compress down and that helps keep the bed moist and you don't have to water as often. We like the plant it and forget it method.
Ah, here we go. Here's building the beds. That's steaming compost and spent grain most likely. And this is we got a bed at one of the community garden plots in Anchorage. We'll be in our second year at this place.
Yeah, a lady with horse manure volunteered to bring that in. She dumped it and then we just used pitchforks to shape it into the shape that we wanted for our beds, adding the spent grain and leaves.
And another thing that we found is useful is to try to find a place to grow them that is near where you live, that's on your regular route. Because otherwise it's just too time consuming and there's too many other things to do.
Other than you don't have to get over there very much. I
Yeah.
mean, these plants, if you build them in beds like this and you water it in well at the start and you put on a good solid mulch, good thick mulch, I mean, I go over there once in a while just to look at it because it's just incredible watching it grow because it's, amazing growth habit. But we probably service them, like after we plant them, like maybe we service them twice
Yeah,
during
yeah.
this whole season.
yeah. So here's our transplant mix. The transplant mix is a little different than the seedling mix. And when we refer to planting pockets, once we've built up our lasagna garden, we let me just see if you have a picture of this. No, take that back.
We might
How do I
later. I
go
think we
back?
do later.
How do I go back?
The P will make you go back.
P. Okay, there we go. So a transplant mix, basically into our lasagna beds, we'll like dig out a little nest and add in another mix that includes native soil, which is not as fancy as, the potting soil, native soil, compost, leaves, just something to protect the roots from the heating compost in the bed. And
And these pockets are about as big as like, I don't know,
1.5 feet wide.
1.5 by 1.5 and about at least 12 inches deep, like a couple big basketballs in there. And yeah, so we're digging it out. We don't want it too close to the hot lasagna mix because we don't want the roots of the squash plant to burn. So we're going to make this hole, which we fill with these other ingredients and the plant to protect the roots.
And we throw in amendments, some kelp, eggshells, lime, azomite, and a little organic fertilizer and a little flower fertilizer.
Those are dry.
Those
Yeah.
are dry, yeah.
Yeah. And then after we put the plant in and into this other type of mix here, then we will ferment around it, water it in really well, and then bring the mulch back up to it, but we don't want to choke the stem of the plant with a lot of mulch because we don't want that to rot.
Have fun.
Yeah, this is our bucket of amendments, all the things we're going to throw into those pockets.
So transplanting is really the biggest, takes the most effort of all of these tasks. And I would say about June 1, who knows, this year might be different. When nighttime temperatures are above 50 and your bed is warm and there's the measurements on the pockets. You want to label your plants, make a map. We found this to be useful. Of course, we're trying to keep track of this stuff in a semi-organized manner. But last year we did make a map and that was really great because it allowed us to track how many squash we got per plant and so on and so forth.
And when we go to harvest the squash, we try to trace back the squash to the plant so that we know, and then we put the squash around that plant. So in the end, we can count, okay, that's a Sibley, that particular plant produced this many, this other Sibley, whatever, all the other squash. That is a pocket, and I'm putting the squash plant into that pocket. You can see the rim of dirt around it. That is the pocket mix. And then I'm going to pull all that
Uh-oh,
pocket.
we lost your volume.
The volume is not up.
Oh, there you go. Maybe it was me. You're back. Sorry.
We're gonna pull the pocket mix in close to the plant and then pull the leaves around it. This is our bed already planted. You can see how they're kind of interspersed around. We kind of do a zigzag or whatever works for space. And that is our completed bed.
I would say we placed the seedlings a couple of feet apart. Transplanting done. Yeah, that's the big job. So early to mid-season TLC, we like to encourage growth and flowering with what we call broth. We mix it up in a garbage can. Use what you have, organic, liquid, all-purpose growth fertilizer, flower fertilizer, fish emulsion. The heavy mulch will conserve water through the summer. The garbage can will warm the water.
And let all the chlorine dissipate. We
Um,
put water into this garbage can. We try to keep it full all the time so that anything can leach out like chlorine.
and we tend to use a watering can rather than an overhead sprinkler to avoid leaf burn. And also what we really want to do is keep the bed moist, not interested in sprinkling overhead and wasting a lot of water.
And we want to encourage flowering so that, we get more squash. And we debated whether we should be breaking off flowers that are way down the vine to encourage the other squash to grow on the plant. But then we found out that sometimes some of our best squash are not near the root of the plant, but are way out, like 10 feet away. So I don't think we'll be doing that anymore.
Another thing you can do for fertilizer is to steep fresh seaweed or comfrey until they're putrid and pour them on the plant. So you don't need to just have, expensive fertilizer. Use what you've got.
And squash are heavy feeders. But there's a lot of nutrients in the pocket and the bed.
Oh, here we are. Here's our broth. That was fun.
So we stir that all up and then we use watering cans to pour it on the squash. You can see how big they are in the background there. That's one of our sites that we had.
I've got a question here in the chat. Do you dry your own kelp for amendments? And if so, what kind do you use?
No, our friend Bridget sometimes went with a group of people to Seldovia, didn't she, and get kelp? Or did she do it? Yeah.
Yeah, we've done it. We have used amendments and we've done both. We've done both. We've used amendments and I think it's just the what's that brand?
Are you talking about the one that Ellen
Well,
sells, the
we
dry one?
have a couple of brands we've been using and
Are you
we should
thinking
try
of
to
Down to
find
Earth?
one. Yeah, down to earth, and then another one that Ellen Vandevies uses, and then
And sells on her website, Good Earth Garden School.
yeah, and then also our friend Bridget brings back seaweed sometimes from her trip to the coast. So
I know.
encourage this is a group effort. Encourage your friends and say you'll give them some of your firstborns.
I know, I mean, Anchorage, I always say Anchorage is a coastal city, but we don't really have access to seaweed. So yeah, make friends with people who have access to seaweed. And then related to that, do you have any issues with pests like fly larvae or anything when you use fish emulsion?
No,
We have not had any pest. We, I will say the fertilizer, the seaweed, dried seaweed, kelp that is on the Good Earth Garden School website for sale goes a long way, and it's reasonably priced. It's a very light, dry powder.
these seedlings will grow fast. You'll be amazed.
Yeah, at this point, we're doing that. We're brothing them. We're giving them a mid-season nutrient boost.
Oh,
There's
you can
some of the
see that's
squash.
later in
That's
the
a
summer.
speckled hound there. That's probably a lower salmon river, the one on the right there. You want to talk?
Sure.
Okay.
So you want to harvest when the squashes are big, mid-September before frost, and leave some stem on the squash. And there's
That'll keep them from rotting.
yeah, and there's many methods for curing squash. What they tell you on, your basic website is to leave your squash outside in the sun for 2 weeks at 80 degrees. Ha. Not gonna happen. We have tried setting up a small curing room with a full spectrum light and a heater for about 2 weeks.
Turning the squash.
Turning the squash, that the electricity does get expensive. I'm reconsidering, especially since I had so much failure this week, but I don't know, I mean, this year. I don't know, have to reconsider. Generally, we place them so they're not touching and turn them every couple of days until the skin is hard.
Under the lights.
Under the lights, yeah.
Mhm.
That's what we've done.
And then, like I said earlier, I store mine in a crawl space back in a corner where there happens to be an outdoor air inlet, and I just have slots of wood that are propped up and have space between them, and they sit on that. And Leslie, you're using
I put them in cardboard, like cardboard produce boxes, flat cardboard produce boxes, and from Costco. And they're in like a cold room off my basement. And anyway,
I think that having them on these slats, these wood slats, gives them a whole lot of air circulation.
that's a
which is
that's a
probably
good
thing.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
There's Leslie using our map, and we have traced the squash back to the root of the plant, pulled out all the plants, but first we trace the squash back, pile them there, and then Leslie is now recording how many squash there were per plant. And later we will even weigh them and record that, which is, Leslie loves doing it, and I concede.
but now we know.
But it's good information
Yeah.
because we're really trying to figure out which ones give us, the best results.
That was half of our crop last year.
Yeah, in the lower right there, those are the hidatsas. On the lower left are Sibleys that have that great storing capacity. And then right in front of Leslie are the Curries, and to the right of her are the speckled hounds, or some of them anyway. There's more of them.
That's how we did the shelf setup for the curing.
Yeah, those have lights, and we just turn them in the lights.
We just turned them.
Those that are on the floor, that's not how they were. We were just collecting and separating, getting ready to weigh them.
This is what they say. Use a cool, dark area, 50 to 55 degrees with 50% humidity. I would say work with what you've got, because nobody has the perfect setup. Crawl space, unheated basement, I guess I would say an insulated garage. You really need to check weekly for signs of rot. I will say that I had 3 periods of travel last winter where I was gone for a couple of weeks, and that could have been part of my problem. they should last until spring. What we did find out this last year is we really need to eat the curry first. Last year, we had everything lasting. I had everything lasting much better. So something's not right with my storage, I believe. And then you want to eat them.
This is a lower Salmon River that was so huge, and I think we already figured it had a blemish on it or something.
So we had to eat this one first.
Yeah, and so Leslie cut it open with an axe because, I mean, this was a squash that was probably 18 inches or 22 inches across.
And shared it with a bunch of my friends. Lessons learned.
Well, we overwatered a tray and lost a whole tray of seedlings, which made it so last year we had a lot of certain plants and very few of others. And we did have a garden at Chancenoux one year. It was a couple summers ago. And it was such a cold summer that we did the process that we've told you about. We planted them and then we totally blew them off. We just thought it's so cold, they're not going to do anything. And we never visited them all summer until like late August. I ran into a friend of mine who has a garden over there and she said, "Have you seen your squash?" And I said, "Oh no, we've just totally."
We gave up. We were
We-
depressed.
And she said, "You gotta go see them. They're huge. They're all over the place." And so we went over and, we had a pretty good harvest and we hadn't touched it all summer and there had been enough rain and the design of the beds just took care of the plants.
Um, we would recommend find a friend to do this with and start small. There is a lot of work at the beginning of the season, and it's just so much more fun with a friend.
And also it's so much easier. Everything goes twice as fast. And like we said, we break it down like, we'll be planning, we'll be mixing up our soil for the pots, for the seedlings. And then a couple weeks later, we'll bring, plant the seeds. And then there's a whole month until we have to transplant them. So in the meantime, we'll be building our beds or amending the bed and so we break it up into separate tasks. And once you plant them, it's easy. Once you put them in the ground.
Let's see, yeah,
You
storage.
can do a lot of things during the summer after you plant them. And I just go by once in a while and reach my hand deep into the bed and make sure it's still moist. And if it's not, we'll go over there and spot water them.
I got a couple questions, lady.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go back here. Flowers, you mentioned this a little bit. Do you ever trim any of the flowers? You talked about that.
It's hard to keep up on them. And
Especially since we kind of ignore this.
yeah, one thing though, one little line of rabbit hole of research I'm doing this year is considering trying some hand pollination earlier in the season. It's not something I've gotten into before. But we found that our squash were forming pretty far out on our vines, and we did have a really good we had a really good production of early season flowers, and I was really surprised that they didn't develop into squash. And someone said, "Oh, maybe the pollinators weren't around." And so I thought this season I'd like to try doing some hand pollinating. But quite honestly, with regards to the question of removing flowers, it was impossible to keep up. I mean, if you had your garden right next to your house and you could go out every single day, twice a day, and keep up with the flowers, maybe, yeah, but.
And then you could cook them and eat them.
Well, oh, that's another thing.
Yeah.
My brother visited me and he actually picked some flowers and put them in his smoothie and got a stomach ache. And apparently there's like one kind of squash where you can eat the flowers and the rest of them produce this enzyme, and I can't remember what the name of it is. Maybe it's cucurbitin. I can't remember, but it does cause digestive upset, and it's not that great for you. So you want to think about it before you eat squash flowers.
Or maybe he needed to cook them.
Or maybe he needed to cook them, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. I know squash flowers are like an Italian delicacy, but that might be, from summer squash and not winter squash. It's a good, that'd be another interesting rabbit hole.
Many,
All right.
many little rabbit holes.
Yeah,
Do you
and
put
maybe
one,
if we,
oh,
go
next
ahead, Emily.
question. Do you put one plant per pocket?
Yes. We want them to have plenty of room. And
All right.
we did find that the speckled hounds had the bush habit and were the most space compact.
And speaking of that, where do you source your seeds? And have you ever saved seeds from your harvest?
Sourcing, well, I researched the varieties and then we just search for people that carry them or search for companies that carry them. And
Petco had quite a few.
yeah, also Siskiyou and anywhere that we can find them. I've been trying to find people that grow them themselves. There's some good outfits in the Northwest that are doing research on squash. So, and then what was the other question? Oh,
Well, oh,
saving seeds. These are all these are hybrids, and the other thing is to save. So for one thing, if you were to save the seeds, you would get like it would throw back to previous generations. You wouldn't get the same thing, and
Not true to.
it wouldn't be true to form. And the other thing is squash will interhybridize. So all of these squash plants growing together will just interhybridize, they'll hybridize. So unless you were able to plant single crops and have a distance between them, or you were disciplined enough to hand pollinate and be really, really careful, like Christine Wilcox does that.
I think she has them under little high tunnels. too.
Yeah.
Separately, the different types are under separate high tunnels.
So I would say the genetics is a whole nother rabbit hole. What was that?
We're right here.
Oh, yeah, we're poor curing and storage. Yeah, that's something I'm researching for this next season. I'm curious if anybody else has grown winter squash. Anybody else that's on this webinar?
Yeah, that's had good success with some kind of curing technique and storage. We'd love to hear it. So, do we talk about this? Poor production.
Poor production. Oh yeah, we have grown plants that had grown varieties that had poor production. Our first round with curry squash was terrible, absolutely terrible. But Liz really liked the flavor, and so we looked into squash that had a curry squash that had a shorter growing season and were adapted to cool conditions.
And also, don't ever forget the magic of heavy mulch in terms of cutting down on your work and also keeping the squash plants consistently moist throughout the season, the roots consistently moist.
we do have a couple people in the chat. Diana says spaghetti squash grows great in Fairbanks, and Patty says she's grown long pie and did not cure them at all. And she stored them in her cold bedroom and they lasted almost a year.
Wow, that's
Wow.
great. Yeah. Well, like we said in the bottom here, once you get dialed into the process, it's really not that big a deal. It's not that much work. You just do it like in spurts. And it leaves really growing these winter squash leaves a lot of time to do other things in the summer because you don't have to pay a lot of attention to them. Once they're in the ground, they're almost carefree until the end of the season and the harvest, other than we like to check the moisture levels once in a while of the beds, and maybe once or twice a season, depending on what we get around to, we will do the brothing to give them extra nutrients.
All right, a few other questions. Do you think the seed catalogs, where it says days to maturity, do you think they are accurate?
Good question. I don't know. I just figured if they're telling me it's going to take longer than 100 days, we're not going to have the time. We're just, it's just, I mean, I think we tend to get a cooler, damper summer generally than you in the interior, but you get a shorter summer and you might have 3 frosts.
Yeah, and as far as where we get them from, like Leslie said, we just look for the type of squash that we desire. I did notice this year that Fedco had maybe 4 or 5 of the ones that we desired, and we do like Fedco seeds.
Johnny's,
That Siskiyou had
Siskiyou.
had the Heat Datsa.
yeah. And then sometimes there'll be some oddball place, but yeah.
Do you ever trellis your squash?
Haven't, but I'm curious about it. If someone does it, let us know.
Yeah, because this becomes very sprawling. I mean, these end up, when we had like the rectangular garden bed at Chancenoux, they traveled over and up the fence that we were alongside the fence. And they traveled in a little bit into the people's beds that were next to us. But fortunately, nobody was gardening those that summer.
When you're starting your seeds, do you gamble and just put 1 seed per 4-inch pot?
Yes.
All right, I think that's the questions we have in the chat. If there are other questions, you can unmute and ask yourself. Oh, here comes a new one. Oh, so Patty says she's used sunflowers as a little trellis and they just go up there on their own.
Yeah, we just think about, if you're going to trellis them, what's the size of the squash? Like a curry might be a good one to trellis because, it's about this big. But those things like Lower Salmon River or Speckled Hound or even Hidatsa, I think would be hard to. Even a
Sibley's.
Sibley. Oh, you think that'd be okay? Or
Well,
not?
no, I think
I
it
don't
would be
think you
hard.
have
I think you would need to have a robust trellis, and then in my mind, and I would love to see how someone else did it. In my mind, you just need a really robust trellis, and that would be an infrastructure investment, time and energy.
A friend of ours, though, a few years back made an arched trellis, and she had some squash that grew over that, but they were supported by the arch of the trellis on top of the trellis. I will say that, if you go to try to buy a squash if you go to buy a squash at Natural Pantry, I mean, they're like $10 to $20. So, we actually this last year, splitting between the 2 of us, we each got 29 squash. Like I said, I'm still eating a few. Leslie still got a few. So, it's a great way to be resilient.
Then you got to figure out how to cook them, but
It's a-
there's always something.
Right, that's another.
I mean, each of us is nobody's good at everything. So
One of the easy ways to do is, like I said, you took an orange curry, you just slice it in half, set it face down on a baking pan, and then when you push a fork through it, maybe after 45 minutes and it's really soft, turn off the oven, but just leave it in there, and it will almost caramelize and become even sweeter. And some of the big ones, when we cook them, it's so much squash that we freeze some of it, and we might add it to soups for thickening. Yeah,
that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Mavens. It's inspiring. It's like the perfect time of year for this presentation. It's like, I can do this, especially since I don't have to do anything until May.